we had to hit the ground running with something, and something was better than nothing, even though the something was a mess. But now, season 2, oh man, is change coming. Yeah. We should probably even talk about like how we're actually going to structure the customer service moving forward, like how we're going, and like really not even customer service, but even
how we're almost like designing the entire like corporate structure
exactly
around
like
this new philosophy.
Yeah, where we're no longer blending positions. People are going to have more responsibility, and this person's directly responsible for this task, this responsibility, because it muddies the water too much, and then people start blaming other people, and if something doesn't get done, but both of those people were responsible for potentially the same thing. It muddies the water. Mm-hmm. It's too much. So
there's a lot of like when I was in school studying about the theory of this, which is interesting, kind of like seeing it all play out in practice. There's a huge push in corporations, especially like small to medium-sized corporations nowadays, of what's called like a horizontal corporate structure, or like flat corporate structure, meaning that you have the owner or CEO and then just everyone's at the same level. You don't have like a tiered system. And they're like, oh, this is all the rage. There's a lot of reasons why this is beneficial. And I can see when you have maybe like 10, 20 employees, that kind of makes sense. Everyone has shared responsibilities. Kind of what everyone is doing, because you have your kind of hand in everyone's like roles and responsibilities. But as you're getting larger and larger, like across all companies, I think we have maybe close, like around 100 people right now. You can't micromanage what everyone is doing, right? So I think that with that, you have to have some sort of tiered system where you have people that are going to be able to like implement the things that you say, that it's not like you're making sure that they're actually being followed up on. Like you'll have an idea. You're like, okay, here's my idea. This is what I want done. And then it just gets done. You don't have to like follow up, or if you do that, it means that there's a problem going on.
Exactly.
Right. Like pretty much for the most part, everyone across all departments is self-sufficient to be able to just solve that problem, whatever it is. Or they solve the problem before it even gets to you, which is the ideal situation. Exactly. Right. They know exactly how it should be solved, and they're already proactive. Yeah. And so one of the things I find is like, so we're cleaning up the overall like flow of command with putting the right people in place, but also having that each role is ultimately responsible for like a sub selection of responsibilities, rather than having like this pool of responsibilities that several people share. Because then what happens is that either one, when you're like, oh, I need this thing done, you'll send it out to 5 people and no one really knows like what should be happening, who should be doing what. But then also 2, if it doesn't get done, you're like, okay, well, I don't know if there's anyone to blame. And we've actually had it come up where we're like, well, we can't really discipline anyone because no one has the ultimate responsibility to take this on. So what we're trying to do here is essentially that each person has an exact list of being like, hey, this is exactly what you're responsible for. Anything beyond that would be you kind of just helping out. But these are the things that we're coming to you, that we're expecting you to do. One, it helps when you're like, okay, I need to get this like specific thing done. You know exactly who to go to, or you don't know, I'll know who to go to exactly. And then 2, it helps with like, okay, if this thing's going wrong, we know exactly why it's going wrong, and we can measure that person's performance in that role. And we were running with a flat structure because we were growing, and it was early on, and I did have to require people to do a lot of different roles. They had to wear a lot of hats. But now we're too big where, and it's not that they still don't wear like necessarily a lot of hats. Like we have some roles still that there's one person doing it, where in a couple of years
it's not
from
shared.
Now, right, where like let's take for example this new position of the inventory manager. In 5 years from now, that might be a team of 10 people doing that one role. But there's even more specific like subdividing of responsibilities. Or let's take someone like Dave in marketing. Like all the things that he oversees, in 5 years from now, we might have 20 people in marketing that like all handle. We only have one person doing TikTok full time. One person doing like Instagram ads only for one subsidiary, right? Like as you get bigger and bigger, there's gonna be more and more tasks within that specific thing.
But those will probably, they're probably going to be a manager there, and
exactly.
So so if somebody in that role isn't performing, then the manager will know, and it falls on the manager's shoulders.
And that's the other thing too, is that like as you get larger as well, like you have to set up some sort of way of measuring people's performances. And I think that if any employees are listening, I think that having some sort of way of measuring your own performance that then you can like bring to your supervisor, manager, or owner or whatever, being like, hey, here's the exact things that I've done, that I've overseen. Because like that data, as let's say, for example, like where we are in the company is like, we need that information to be able to help guide our decision making, right? Without that information, it's very hard to like, okay, if I'm trying to improve our customer service and the number of tickets that we have going out, I without knowing what's the average rate that you should be able to like solve all these tickets, how many should you be getting through an hour a day? If you're not getting to that level of performance, why is that happening? Are there other issues that are being overlooked that I don't know of the reason why that's happening? Or is it a factor of just like sheer laziness? Like what is it that's going on, right? And then you can actually quantify, okay, we need to get 100 units out per day. 100 tickets out per day. What is the thing? How can we set up this position that they can actually get that number of tickets out? So that's kind of the transitions that we're going through, kind of even across the board. But even like, so even in the golf course this upcoming season, like we'll probably do a couple of these things as well, cleaning up like who's responsible for what, and also who has authority over what. That's a big thing too, is that as you see certain people kind of like grow and flourish in their positions, letting them know like, listen, like you have authority over this, and this. So you already have wanted to fix these things, but you previously haven't had the authority. You now have it. Like you can implement these things based on this criteria.
Oh, the golf course needs it bad. Last year was just a bunch of fuckery. Not knowing what to do, and I wouldn't say not knowing what to do, but almost kind of accepting how things ran from previous ownership, observing, and then realizing, wow, was that fucked up? Now we're bringing in our own culture and our own structures and stuff like that, but we had to hit the ground running with something, and something was better than nothing. Even though the something was a mess. But now, like season 2, oh man, is change coming.
And I think another thing that I always really try thinking deeply on is, what is the trickling effects of any like large decision in a business, right? And then I'm noticing it more and more now, the larger that we get, that, okay, we want to do this one seemingly simple change. But I'm like, okay, what are all the things? There's so many moving parts and integrated parts, and like this depends on this. And I've already noticed this so many times. And so that's another thing too, is that like trying to get better and better at being like, okay, we want to implement this change at the golf course. Now the golf course doesn't rely as much on technology as Canadian Protein, obviously. But like, hey, we want to implement this change. What is all the trickling effects that could happen from something like this? Even like with management changes and like human resource issues.
The one thing that we have to do though, as we grow, we have to figure out how to still stay nimble and be able to pivot quickly. Because I am seeing how, although when I would pull the trigger on something really quick, how it would maybe not be ready to do it, we would get it, but it wouldn't be as tight, and we'd fuck up and this and that, but we get it out. However, I never want to get to the point where, now again, this is, obviously a stretch, but hey, who knows, right? You take a company like Rexall, Costco, the companies that we deal with, like to scale. Seeing how they operate and how long it takes for them to make decisions is just not acceptable in my mind. I'm not saying that their model isn't acceptable. I'm saying for us, it's unacceptable, because I do feel one of the reasons why we are successful is because we're able to pivot quickly. We can never lose that competitive advantage.
Now, interestingly,
that is it.
That's almost a catch-22.
I know.
With having the larger the company still being able to pivot quickly. One of the, I think this is also where it goes down to like clearly defining roles and responsibilities. Not over hiring is another huge one. Not having like bloated like staff where you don't really even know what some people do or like what they're getting done.
It's funny enough. I saw a Bloomberg post today about why Apple's not firing so many people, because they hired efficiently to begin with.
Yeah. And that's a very interesting, like when you, now I don't know what the hiring process is like at Apple, but I would imagine with you kind of saying that stat in comparison to places like Twitter and Shopify and some places that have had like Facebook massive layoffs.
Microsoft.
I'm imagining that when you come into a position, they have already so clearly outlined exactly what you have to fucking do.
Yeah.
If you get it done, great. Here's future opportunities. Here's other positions. If you don't get it done, okay, you're done.
Think about how valuable they are, right? They're also a valuable company based off, their performance and their probably their profit, obviously.
And if you think of like their philosophy with their technology, which is like simple, like not bloated, there's nothing that's unnecessary on an iPhone. Yeah. Well, nowadays there actually kind of is, but like their principles and and as if you apply that to your overall corporate structure and your employees, like I would imagine you have the same sort of thing.
For sure.
Right.
You'd have to.
But that's why it's interesting listening to, I'm kind of following Elon Musk's takeover of Twitter a little bit and how he's
doing a great job.
Yeah.
Like it's hilarious how people think he's like just destroying Twitter, but it's really odd. It's the people that don't, it's like the people that think he's at least from my perspective, I recently started becoming active on Twitter. It seems like the people that don't like what he's doing are the people that don't, are that they want suppression on there, and he's obviously going the other way. So it's a really interesting dynamic on there right now.
Well, there's a podcast with him and I forget. I think it's the guy that started either Square or Quest or one of those brands. Anyways, ended up selling it, and now he only has pretty much a YouTube channel and like a podcast. You for sure have seen this guy.
Interesting.
Anyways, he was interviewing Elon Musk, and he was asking, and Elon Musk was saying, he's like, well,
Quest, like the protein bars?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
The protein bar guy.
It might be that guy.
Oh, okay.
Tom Billio or whatever his name is. Yeah, I think it was him that was asking him this.
Okay. Yeah.
I forget where I saw this. I saw it like last week.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So
I thought you meant like Quest Trade at first.
Oh yeah, no, like Quest, like the protein company.
The protein bars, yeah.
Sold for $980 million, I think it was.
Did it actually?
Yeah.
Wow, who bought that?
Some large like multinational nutritional company.
Really?
But
like Glanbia or something?
Something like that. Yeah, I'm not sure if it was Glanbia, but he was talking about, so this is a tangent, but he was talking about in a podcast with someone else about what it's like just selling your company for that amount of money, and that because the person's like, well, do you just like receive a check? He was like the 100% owner, right?
Was he really?
Yeah. Wow. So he's like, yeah, like I just had like $980 million like deposited into my checking account, like it's just there.
That's crazy.
I know.
That's wild, man.
And then he's like, well, now what do I want to do with my life? I have more money than like for several lifetimes.
Wow.
Right. So like, what do I want to do? So he's like, I want to actually like make an impact with like education and like opening people's minds and like teaching people about business and mindset and whatever. That's what made him start Impact Theory, which is that podcast. And they have like a whole kind of like host of things, but it's I don't think it's a non-profit, but it's not, its goal is not to be like a wildly profitable company.
Okay.
Its goal is only to bring on like really interesting people from all walks of life and so I really listen to that guy.
Wow. Interesting.
Because he has actually done it. That's the thing too, is that a lot of these like guys out there, like they haven't actually done anything.
Yeah. Anything.
Right. Whereas he's interviewing somebody, but he's like, he actually sold his company for near $1 billion.
Yeah.
Right. Like it started from scratch.
And here's the best part about it too. Dave and I were talking about this. Somebody reached out to me and was like, hey, I want you to be on my podcast. Right. And this guy has like 9 million followers on Instagram. So I'm like, oh, okay, this is fake. Then Dave looked into him. He's like, no, he's not fake. But he's like claiming he owns these like businesses and he's like, filthy rich and this and that. He's got this pocket, but he can't find it. But like, so like, I don't fucking get. I don't understand why people follow people that like within like 2 seconds, you can't find what they're doing. And another thing that I find very interesting is, why wouldn't you leverage your following and put like your business in your profile?
Yeah.
Like for me, one of the only reasons why you wouldn't do that, because you don't actually want people to go down that rabbit hole and find out that you're fucking fake.
Yeah.
I don't know another reason why you wouldn't do it. Why wouldn't you do it?
Some people might argue, but like being like, oh, like maybe their business is just hard to conceptualize for some people, or maybe some people just don't get it. Maybe they run a marketing agency or something. But what? But my point is, though,
you're telling me all 9 million people won't be able to conceptualize that? Right. It makes no sense.
My point is that someone like Alex Hormozi, who runs a company that most people don't even know what type of company he runs.
Yeah.
Right. Having essentially having this like group of companies that buys businesses or invests in them. He's pretty much like kind of like a private equity.
He's a VC guy.
He's a VC.
Yeah, he's
right?
a VC.
And a lot of people, even you and I just struggled explaining that, right? But we at least kind of like understand. A lot of people don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
Right. But he still markets it.
It's still easy to find.
Exactly.
Although I feel he does a fairly poor job at, if you hit that link, go to his whatever.
Like his landing page is horrible.
It's just I don't know if that's on purpose or.
Yeah, Alex, if you're listening, like please hit us up for a landing page. Like it needs some help.
Yeah, like we're it's just it's bad. Yeah. Anyways,
I don't know where that was going.
It shouldn't take longer than 30 seconds to find out what someone does, and then another 30 seconds to. Or 30 seconds to come across what this person does, and then another 30 seconds to find out what it is that they do.
Yeah.
It should be like 60 seconds total. Like,
and then 30 seconds to be able to then another 2 seconds to get in contact with them.
Yeah.
Being like, hey, I'm interested.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So to bring this full circle, what we were saying like at the beginning of all this was Elon Musk and Twitter. Yeah. So he was talking with that guy, and he was saying, well, when you really think about it, what does Twitter do? Twitter does this, this, and this. Okay, so for this, how many people do you really need to run this? Like if you were to start Twitter from scratch, just like to build it to where it is right now, how many people would you need? Well, you probably really only need 200 people to do this. And how many people would you need for this? Well, you'd probably only need like 100 people for this and 100 people for this.
Interesting.
So he listed it out. He's like, you'd really only need, and he was saying this to Tom, I think his name's Tom.
Yeah.
Who also grew up fucking billion-dollar company. So he knows how many people it would take to build that sort of platform. And so he's like, yeah, it's really only 400 people. And he's like, there was 5,000 people. there's like we broke it down to what Twitter does at its core. You only need 400 people to run Twitter.
Did he actually say that? Like 400 people?
400 people, yeah.
That's fucking crazy.
So he's like, why are we operating with 5,000 people? Like, no wonder like Twitter was struggling.
Wow.
Right? And so I think this kind of goes to show, but when you have tech companies that I think have proven the test of time, that they don't just overhire for the sake of just overhiring and become very bloated, like that, they probably, now to kind of bring this all full circle, is they probably have built out a structure where their employees know exactly what they have to get done. They have specific performance metrics that they're abiding by. They have maybe a scaled performance thing where based on their performance, they'll have certain compensation. And if they're not hitting those targets, then they just move the fuck on, right? Where they just like get rid of them immediately.
Yeah.
And then they're probably also structured it where not only one is Apple, probably one of the most well-known companies in the entire world, but two, they probably have some of the best paying positions in the entire world. So they attract top talent.
Yeah.
Right. So you kind of link together being wildly efficient from a human resources standpoint and like kind of creating these jobs together with being like very competitive. I feel
very
like
efficient.
And very efficient.
Yeah, with the best work in the world. The most work in the world on a like per employee basis probably. Yeah, so you don't have to hire bloated. Yeah, it makes sense.